Good morning, students. So today we shall be continuing with the last part of the anti-epileptic drugs. So I hope you have all revised the first two parts and you are clear with the concepts and the drugs that we have discussed in the first two sessions. In today's session, we shall be dealing with the pharmacology of the newer anti-epileptic drugs. We shall also be looking into the general principles of anti-epileptic use, and our area of concentration will be the following, that is drugs for different types of epilepsies, management of status epilepticus, and management of febrile convulsions. So we shall be starting with the newer anti-epileptic drugs. So in order to make it clear and precise for you, I have put all these drugs into a tabular column. Instead of going paragraph wise, we'll look at the drugs in this format. This will be easier for you to follow. So we shall be discussing mainly three newer anti-epileptic drugs: topiramate, zonisamide, lacosamide, tiagabin, vigabatrin, and levetiracetam. So first one is topiramate. It is a broad spectrum anti-epileptic. We already discussed a few examples of broad spectrum anti-epileptics in the previous class. This drug is a weak carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. I hope you already know the examples of other carbonic anhydrase inhibitors like acetazolamide, which you have learned both in glaucoma as well as in the diuretic chapter. So how does this drug act in epilepsy? It has got multiple mechanisms of action. It prolongs the inactivated state of sodium channels, just like phenytoin and carbamazepine. It also increases the GABAergic action. It also antagonizes the excitatory neurotransmitter glutamate receptor. Also, it has got an additional mechanism, that is neuronal hyperpolarization through potassium channels. It finds use as a monotherapy for generalized seizures as well as partial seizures. You can see GTCS, SPS, CPS, absence, myoclonic seizure. It can also be used as an add-on therapy in generalized and partial seizures. In add-on means that it is added on to some other drug when the adequate control is not achieved with one drug alone. It is also used for migraine prophylaxis. So we have already discussed some of the other examples of anti-epileptic drugs which are used for migraine prophylaxis in the previous session. Hope you remember those examples. The ADR includes sedation, ataxia, weight loss, and nervousness. And one of the characteristic finding is word finding difficulty. So there is a memory loss in the patient, and it is mainly pertaining to the word finding. So the patient might not be able to remember the words that we often use very regularly. Another characteristic ADR is the presence of renal stones in patients who are taking this drug. The next drug, which is also a weak carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, is zonisamide. The mechanism of action in epilepsy is that it also prolongs the inactivated state of sodium channel. It also suppresses the T type of calcium current in the thalamic neurons. This drug is also is only used as an add-on drug in partial seizure. It is not used as a monotherapy, only as an add-on drug. The very interesting or the very attractive feature of this drug is that it is devoid of any significant drug interaction. The ADR includes sedation, ataxia, headache, nervousness, and renal stones, very much similar to that of topiramate. The next drug is lacosamide. This also prolongs the inactivated state of sodium channel. This also is used only as an add-on drug in partial seizure. The ADR, other than ataxia, it includes some very characteristic ADRs which we haven't seen earlier. These are diplopia, that is double vision, tremor, depression, and arrhythmias. So this is a drug which is having some new set of ADRs as compared to that we have usually seen with the previous anti-epileptic drugs. Now moving on to the next set. The first one is tiagabin. This increases the GABA activity. So in the previous class, I had mentioned how can a drug increase the GABA activity. So one mechanism is by inhibiting the GABA transporter, GAT1 transporter, and thus inhibiting the reuptake of GABA into the synaptic neurons. So what happens as a result? High concentration of GABA is there in the synapse, and this will act on the postsynaptic GABA receptors. So this is how tiagabine acts. It inhibits the GAT1 transporter in the presynaptic neurons. This drug is also used as an add-on drug in partial seizure. The areas include sedation, nervousness, asthenia, amnesia, and two new ones, that is dermatitis and abdominal pain. Moving on to the next drug, that is vigabatrin. It is GABA vinyl GABA. This increases the GABA activity by another mechanism, inhibiting the GABA transaminase enzyme. Remember, I had shown you a figure of GABA metabolism. GABA is metabolized or degraded into succinic semialdehyde by the GABA transaminase enzyme. This drug inhibits that enzyme, and as a result, there's a high concentration of GABA in the synapse, and it acts on the postsynaptic neurons. Again, this is a drug which is used as an add-on drug in partial seizure. The very characteristic feature of this drug, adverse drug reaction of this drug, is visual disturbances. And it can be color vision disturbances or visual field disturbances. Other areas include paresthesias and behavioral disturbances like depression or even psychosis. The last drug is levetiracetam. The mechanism of action of this drug is not known. There are two postulated mechanisms, which are that it binds to synaptic vesicle protein, that is SV2A, and this somehow alters the glutamate and GABA release across the synapse. Or it has also been postulated that it inhibits the N type of calcium channels, which affects the intracellular calcium concentration. These are the two postulated mechanisms. However, the actual mechanism is not clearly known. This also is used as an add-on only, but both in simple seizure, both in partial seizure as well as in the generalized seizure. The adverse drug reactions include sedation, dizziness, and weakness. The attractive feature here is that just like zonisamide, this drug also doesn't have any significant drug interaction. With that, we finish the newer anti-epileptic drugs. You can make a tabular column in the same way that I have presented, and this will be easier for you to learn. Now this is a summary of the mechanism of action of anti-epileptic drugs, which I have taken from the reference textbook, and it shows or compiles all the mechanisms of action and the different drugs which are acting by those mechanisms. So you might find a single drug under many mechanisms, because you have already seen that many of the drugs, they have multiple mechanisms of action. So you can also go through this in your leisure time elaborately. Now we'll move on to the drug therapy of epilepsy, the general principles of it. So you should understand at this point that anti-epileptic drugs, they suppress the seizures, but they do not cure the disorder. And the gradual control can actually make the disease fade away after years of control. That is how a patient may come out of the epilepsy, but there is no actual cure. So the idea or the aim of the treatment is to control and prevent all the seizure activity. With the available drugs, this is achieved up to 50% in up to 50% of the patients. 20 to 30% patients attain only partial control, and the remaining remain refractory, means they did not achieve the full control in spite of use of multiple drug therapy. Whenever possible, you should find the cause of epilepsy. As most cases are idiopathic, we may not find the cause, but whenever there is a cause, the cause should be removed or treated. Now, how do you start the drug therapy and how do you choose the treatment? So the drug therapy should be started as early as possible. The choice of drug should be according to the seizure type and also the requirement of the patient, because depending on the tolerance of the patient and the adverse effect which the patient can tolerate. Depending upon all those factors, you have to choose a drug. Now I'll show you the choice, how it is made. For example, partial seizures. The first line drugs include carbamazepine, lamotrigine, valproate. The alternative drug is the drug that you can give if you are not getting a control with the first line drug. So you can add use it in an alternative drug. These are also as an add-on drug. Means you keep the first line drug and you add it on. So it can be alternative drug or an add-on drug, levetiracetam, clobazam, phenytoin, gabapentin, and so on. And there are purely add-on drugs. Means they are not used as a monotherapy. They are only used as an add-on, additional drug to the first line drug or the alternative drug, which include lacosamide, phenobarbital, sonisamide. Similarly, you have got for GTCS, the first line drugs are valproate, lamotrigine, carbamazepine. For absence seizures, it is valproate, ethosuximide. Myoclonic and atonic seizure, it is valproate. At the undergraduate level, you should be well versed with the first line drugs. Knowing alternative and add-on drugs is actually a good thing, but first line drugs is a must at the undergraduate level. This also is called as the clinical classification of anti-epileptic drugs. So in any time you are asked about the clinical classification of anti-epileptic drugs, this is what you have to write. This box, two boxes are the ones that you have to write. Okay, now usually we start with a single drug at low doses and gradually increase the dose. Another drug may have to be substituted if you are not finding the adequate control with the maximal tolerated dose of the first drug. So whenever you are doing that, gradually decrease the dose of the first drug and gradually increase the dose of the alternative drug. And slowly you take off the first drug and add on and increase the dose of the second drug. This is the alternative drug. This is the way you actually substitute. You do not abruptly stop the first drug and start the second drug. That doesn't work in epilepsy. You can use combination therapy if you're not getting reasonable benefits out of the monotherapy. And another important aspect is therapeutic drug monitoring. Whenever you are using combination therapies or even with a single drug, you have to go in for the therapeutic drug monitoring. That is the regular monitoring of the plasma concentration of the anti-epileptic drugs. This is because most of the drugs have got interactions, as I told you earlier, and as a result, you may not find sometimes the concentration of the drugs may be either low or more than the desired ones. So you have to always go in for therapeutic drug monitoring whenever you are using anti-epileptic drugs in patients. Now, how do you withdraw the drug? The withdrawal should be always gradual. That is the first and the foremost thing that you have to remember. Never abruptly stop anti-epileptic drugs because the patient may go in for a status epilepticus episode. So withdrawing is not that easy because most of the times the patient has to be given a prolonged therapy, which may sometimes be lifelong, or at least 3 years you have to continue the therapy even after the last seizure. And stoppage cannot be attempted in most patients. Stoppage can be attempted only if the epilepsy is a childhood epilepsy, if there's an absence of family history, if it's a primary GTCS. For other type of seizures like partial seizures or myoclonic or atonic, all these seizures, the stoppage may not be that easy. And the stoppage can be even attempted if there is no indication of a cerebral disorder or if the inter-seizure EEG is normal. Now we go to the next very important aspect of anti-epileptic therapy, that is anti-epileptic therapy in pregnancy. So do you stop a patient when anti-epileptic therapy in a patient when she conceives? The answer is no. The drug should not be stopped if the epileptic patient conceives. This is because it's a high chance of going into status epilepticus if the therapy is stopped. Even the fits that are occurring during pregnancy, they can cause anoxia and they can lead to birth defects and mental retardation in the progeny. We can attempt the dose reduction of anti-epileptic drug, but that also has to be done very cautiously. Always substitute sodium valproate with another drug which is efficacious in that particular type of epilepsy, because already I have told you this sodium valproate is highly teratogenic and you have to go in for a lesser teratogenic drugs. Most of the drugs are teratogenic, so it is actually a compromise. So you have to choose a lesser teratogenic drug. So sodium valproate is a big no because it can cause neural tube defects. Prophylactic folic acid and vitamin K supplementation should be started from the second trimester onwards to prevent the neural tube defects and bleeding in offspring for all the patients, for all the pregnant women who are epileptics. Now we go to the management of a seizure episode. A single seizure episode usually lasts for 2 to 3 minutes. It doesn't require any particular drug to control the seizure as such. What we have to do is only first aid measures have to be done, and these involve preventing the fall and injury due to the fall as well as because of tongue biting. Usually you would have seen the patient would bite the tongue during a seizure. That has to be avoided. Make the surroundings danger free, and you have to put the patient in a prone or left lateral decumbent position with the head tilted backwards and the chin lifted upwards, and this is called the recovery position, and this is to maintain a patent airway. By just doing this, you will see that the patient will be good enough. The seizure will pass away in 2 to 3 minutes, but the patient will take some hours to come back to the normalcy. So this is the management for a seizure episode, which may only last for 2 to 3 minutes. But this is not the case for status epilepticus. I have already defined what status epilepticus is. It is an emergency. It requires emergency drug therapy. First and foremost measure is to maintain a patent airway by the head tilt and chin lift maneuver. Then you have to infuse 50% dextrose IV to correct hypoglycemia. This is because most of the seizures are precipitated by hypoglycemia. So you have to correct the glucose levels. The first drug that is given is lorazepam 4 mg injected IV at the rate of 2 milligram per minute, repeated once after 10 minutes if required. I told you earlier, lorazepam is preferred over diazepam because of its sustained action and less adverse effects, especially thrombophlebitis. Earlier, it was diazepam which was usually used, but now it is lorazepam because of its advantages. If there is no response, then you have to add on forced phenytoin 100 to 150 milligram per minute IV infusion to a maximum of 1000 milligram dose. And phenytoin sodium can be used if forced phenytoin is not available. Otherwise, we will not prefer phenytoin because it has got lot of more adverse drug reactions on IV infusion. If you do not get a response even after this, phenobarbital sodium 50 to 100 milligram per minute IV injection has to be used. Even after that, there is no response. IV midazolam, that is general anesthetics, propofol, thiopentone sodium anesthesia with or without curarization and intensive care has to be given. And other than this, you have to go in for general measures, including maintenance of airway, oxygenation, fluid and electrolyte balance, BP, normal cardiac rhythm, maintain the euglycemic state, and other measures to take care of the unconscious should be done. So lorazepam, fosphenytoin, phenobarbital, and the IV general anesthetics in a stepwise manner is the management of status epilepticus. Now we may move on to the last bit, that is the management of febrile convulsions. So already I have told you what is febrile convulsions. The first measure is to control the fever with paracetamol and external cooling, that is tepid sponging. The drug of choice for febrile convulsion is rectal diazepam, given as the form of a suppository. This is a suppository. The seizure is not stopping with a single dose. Another dose can be repeated after 5 minutes, and this drug is repeated 12 hourly for 4 subsequent doses. If fever is prolonged, a gap of 24 to 48 hours should be given before starting the next series of doses. In cases of recurrent episodes, that is a patient who is developing seizures with every fever episode, they have to be put on intermittent prophylaxis. That is with diazepam, oral or rectal, or oral clobazam that is started at onset of every fever. This is the management of febrile convulsion. So with that, we have concluded the chapter on anti-epileptics. You can revise through all the sections and let me know if there are any doubts. Thank you so much.